little bit of everything. Right now, I'm drinking Brother Justice. It's a single malt distillery out of Minnesota.
Oh,
And
American single malts?
yeah, I mean, I've been drinking more Scotch than American single malts, but that's just what I'm sipping on right now.
A few weeks, you won't be able to afford Scotch.
And we'll see about that. They've all imported tons of product. They're ready for it.
A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Gold Eagle Jake.
And tonight we're working off of, I think, Kyle's suggestion.
Don't give him credit.
Of
You know you just made his Sunday, though. Like, he's half chub right now.
good.
Just whenever he hears his name, that's how easy it is for him.
We're going to talk about stuff that is on the shelf now that hasn't been on the shelf for the past few years. Dan already has a list, so
Well, I'm working on a list. I'm not just going to read a list. Like, it's a boring podcast.
I'll
working on
kick
it
it
too.
off then because
So, what I mean, I guess let's talk. So, like, obviously, some places are getting more and more inventory that's able to get out the door and on shelf. So, like, a couple of years ago, supply or demand was still super high, and distillers were having hard times keeping up with some of their normal stuff, let alone some of these other things that they were doing that they wanted to have as staples. So those are now more readily available. There's also not as much being sold. So some of these things that used to be highly sought after are now on shelves and they sit around for a little bit. So some things could just because they're sitting. Some things could just because that production and aging has finally caught up with the demand they wanted to get out on. So
It's probably
not necessarily a good or a bad thing.
of all of that.
Yeah.
yeah, and what we've talked about before, where I think a lot of the big collectors are no longer hoarding. So
Only a certain distillery does. Everyone's still
Only the
hoarding.
Buffalo Trace tater bots. But yeah, I think 2 years ago we were probably at the worst point in terms of being able to find bottles. There was just, quantities were on the decline of what distilleries were releasing. And that's just because they didn't forecast for this boom. So they bottled and ran through everything that they had that was ready. And people were still buy anytime there was a new release. And distilleries saw that, and I think they really planned and they did whatever they could to get more quantities of limited release items out on the market. So I think a year ago we started to see a bit more, and then maybe 6 months ago there was even more, and that's when people at the same time kind of slowed down their buying habits a little bit.
Yeah.
So
one thing we do know in the future that there's even going to be more and more of these things that are going to be available on the shelf, which is going to be difficult then, especially for liquor stores, of what do you put on the shelf, because what moves and what doesn't. Because, Jake, correct me if I'm wrong, but let's say in 3 or 4 years that all the main Buffalo Trace stuff is available. Is that still going to move faster than some of these other things that are now becoming available on shelves that we'll talk about later? I mean, is that going to kick stuff off the shelves now?
I think once they get to a point where they truly can keep their items on the shelf, and I think we're at least probably 5 years away, but I know it will happen in the future. Once they can finally do that, people will definitely slow down buying that stuff when they realize they can find it
Right.
yeah,
whenever they
there won't be
want.
hoarding anymore.
But do you think
There
any
won't
of
be
that
hoarding.
Right. There won't be hoarding or anything.
But
do you
yes,
think any of that will knock out some of these that we're going to talk about that are now available on a shelf that weren't 2 years ago?
Yeah, part two of that question. Sorry. No, I think we're still going to have a big selection. It's certainly going to hurt, a lot of small distilleries who are going to be at or above that price point with juice that nobody really knows about, or maybe just isn't as good. Um, but I still think the consumer wants a large variety that will never change. So we will still continue to stock our shelves with as much variety as we possibly can. And I mean, I still think bourbon is booming. I still think it's doing very well. Certainly, it's not where it was in the COVID era, maybe 2-3 years ago. But I do think it's going to continue selling very well over the next 5-10 years, if not longer. So I think when more of that harder to find stuff like the whole Buffalo Trace line, maybe Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is a mainstay on the shelf. Who knows what's coming next? There's probably things we haven't even heard of that people are gonna waste all their time chasing down. But yeah, I do think we will hit an interesting point in 5 or 6 years when Buffalo Trace can really keep up and keep all that stuff on the shelf.
Plus, like the one good thing for a lot of liquor stores is right now they have way too big of a rye section, so they can just pull some of that stuff that doesn't sell off the shelves and put more bourbon out there. So
That's
No,
Dan putting his opinion hat on, folks. Don't take that comment too seriously.
we'll see what it's like in a few years. We'll see
I
who
think,
is right.
See, I don't know. I still think rye still hasn't had its time to shine. I think rye is gonna not take over. Certainly, it will not take over bourbon. But I think more bourbon drinkers are gonna start to realize the depth of flavor in rye that they've been missing out on.
It's funny because I was watching I won't get into the politics of it, but I was watching a show and they're talking about political things. And when they keep on saying like when the fever breaks, when the fever breaks, when the fever breaks, and it was Jon Stewart. He goes, if the temperature's been the same for 20 years, then it's not a fever. That's just their resting temperature. That's what I feel you guys are doing like with rye. It's like, oh, it'll get big, it'll get big, it'll get big, and then it never does.
Hey man,
No, that's what they've been doing.
rye
with
has
rum.
been big in the past.
That's true. Rum's been the same way.
That's rum, and the running joke with rum is it's about to take off. It's about to take off, but no, it's just too sweet for whiskey drinkers to adopt. So that won't happen. The age statements are there, but yeah, rye, different story. Much more depth of flavor. I do think people will start to gravitate towards that. Certainly more than they will single malts if you're not a single malt lover.
They're like when we talk about last week or the week before that it's like a growing international trend of startup rye distilleries in Europe and stuff. So
Yeah,
there must be demand somewhere.
We learned about it at the Inchdearney distillery that rye still is not a category in Europe. So they're distilling what is legally considered rye in America, and they don't have a classification for rye, so they can't call it a rye whiskey.
Yep.
It's called a single grain whiskey.
Yeah, which doesn't sound nearly as good.
It doesn't. I mean, it's like it must be really hard to be successful with a single grain whiskey because nobody knows what that is, and it just sounds like a
sounds
poor
like you're
man's
trying to
single
fool
malt.
everybody with like some garbage and like
Yeah.
Some bathtub gin is basically what it sounds like at this point. All right, so I guess let's discuss some things that within the last few years, stuff that we would have to go from store to store to store to find, and now is more available on the shelves. A lot of this is just kind of going from memory, so I might have some that I wrote down that may be disagreed with. But
Do you want me to get my talking point out of the way?
You have 1 point for the entire episode? Yeah, let's just get it done and then just shut up.
Heaven Hill, baby, on the shelf, ready to rock.
Doing so well that
Heaven Hill Bib. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is going to be out there. Got all the toasteds out there. I think the rumor is that McKenna's going to be everywhere pretty soon.
McKenna's been. McKenna, I say McKenna's 2 years ago you couldn't find, but McKenna's been on the shelf now.
So
For us recently, I think we're out of it right now, but we can. It's something that we can actually order now. But yeah, it's. I mean, I don't think we need a. Heaven Hill. We all know we've been talking about it. Like they're a huge distillery. They're just pumping out more quantities of their sought after bottles, and they're doing a good job with it because the quality is still there. And I think they're just kind of waiting until they have enough to send everywhere in the U.S. and have it be plentiful.
yeah, I just had to get my obligatory
I
Heaven
know you
Hill
did.
talking point
I know
in.
you did.
Everyone,
There's going to be a lot of
everyone knew
Heaven
Jake.
Hill on this discussion because they're mostly the only one that's like really getting their stuff out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even you're seeing. I mean, you had it. I mean, well, you got that big shipment of Elijah Craig barrel proof, but you've even had Larceny barrel proof on the shelf for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Before Elijah Craig Barrel Proof was getting on the shelf, Larceny Barrel Proof was on the shelf, and it's hard to like. I don't want to say sitting on the shelf because I think we got like 10 cases, and it took maybe 3-4 weeks to sell through 10 cases, 120 bottles. But
And
yeah,
if you miss
that
it,
a
that's
year
your fault.
ago, yeah, that a year ago would have sold out the same day.
Yeah.
Same with the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. We got 20 cases about a month ago now, maybe 4 weeks ago. We still have, I think, 6 or 7 cases. And yeah, that would have been gone in one day a couple years ago. And yeah, I think I said on the podcast before, but people ask me, like, is this worth it? And I'm like, come on, it's a 10-year or 12-year, whatever it is, barrel proof bourbon for under $70.
Yeah.
Tastes good.
Yeah.
They're doing it right. Sorry, Dan.
No, it's fine. Like I said, that's one of the biggest ones. Like Heaven Hill Bib, the barrel proofs. I still wouldn't say Elijah Craig Toasted's out everywhere.
I would. I mean,
Would you?
Yeah.
more than
It's
the toasted. We can order Elijah Craig toasted whenever we want. I mean,
Okay,
more
yeah.
than the barrel proof.
Yeah.
Barrel proof is still 3 batches a year, so of
Yeah.
course we're gonna have a gap when this one sells out until the next one releases because it usually doesn't release until after summer for the Kentucky Bourbon Fest. So yeah, that toasted is pretty much any day, every day we can order it.
Okay. Speaking about some older whiskeys that used to be really difficult to find, Knob 12 year.
yeah.
It's on my
I've
list.
noticed that.
That was one that, I mean, every once in a while I'd want to run across. And it was usually like grab a couple because you're not sure when you're going to see it again. And a couple people always wanted one. But that's something now that, I mean, in most decent sized liquor stores, you can walk in and find Knob 12 sitting there for the $65, $70 MSRP. Like,
Yeah, which
it's
is an
funny
awesome
because
value.
I'll still walk into some small liquor stores and they'll have it for like $120, and I'm like, dude, you can walk down the street and find this. Like,
Yeah.
take a look around. Like, this isn't what it used to be anymore. But Knob Creek 12, and we talk about it a ton, but that's still one of my go-tos for a decent priced older whiskey.
Yeah.
And now it's easily available because they got so much old crap that I mean, now they're in the 15, 18 year, and it probably won't be too long till we start seeing 15 year fairly readily available, but the price is just way too high on that. So
15 is really good though.
I don't think I've ever had the 15.
I've blinded it twice against 12, and both times I picked the 12. So
Yeah, but you would.
what does that mean?
They haven't really released 15 from what I've seen, except for like that initial
They had
release
a
that they
release
did.
on it
I haven't
last-
seen it in a long time.
I haven't seen it in probably
Few years,
a year. Yeah.
I have
same
one
thing
under
with,
the sink in my basement.
Ooh. Yeah, the 18 Knob Creek 18 batch 1 I think was not very good at all, and then batch 2 was much better. So I'm sure they're kind of waiting to come out with a banger for the next release of 15. I can't say the first batch was bad because I don't think I had it, but yeah, that would be a cool flight. But most people I've heard have said the 12 is the sweet spot.
Yeah. And we've talked about that sometimes, is like I mean, older age statements are good, but at a certain point, you just start getting more wood and less of the whiskey that you really want to get,
Yeah.
especially when you're on the Knob Creek side and it's going to be a lower proof and not at barrel proof. Like
That's
you're
true.
gonna water down a lot of that spice and a lot of that heat, a lot of that ethanol content, and just get more of that wood flavor coming through too. So, but yeah, that's one that I had on my list.
In that vein, some of the Bookers have been really
Yeah, that's what I was
sitting
going to say.
lately.
Booker's, again, still not sitting, but previous releases, we would get 6 bottles. They would sell immediately.
You never even
To
see them.
Yeah, today we got 12 bottles. Uh, I think we posted 6 hours ago, and there's still 3 in stock. So they'll probably be gone by the time this episode airs. But it is something I could see us getting more of. And the last release of last year, they had pretty much opened it up to us, and we ended up getting like 20 cases, and it took 2-3 months to sell through that. So it's good to see.
They're also didn't they only used to do a few batches a year? Are they doing more batches of Bookers now too?
They do 4.
Okay, they're still doing the 4.
Yeah, they do 4.
Okay, all right. I couldn't tell if they were doing more or not.
It feels like they're doing more.
They're
Because it's larger batches. You're seeing it sit, so it feels like there's more.
Yeah, well, last year they did the Booker's Reserve, which was the 5th batch that didn't have a
okay.
designation. That was still super, super limited. But yeah, regular Bookers, they do 4 batches, and we are getting more than what we did in the past. And I'm pretty certain they're upping the bottle count or the case count on that too. So they're making bigger batches of it, which is good because that's what people want. Might as well get the whiskey out there that people want.
Yeah.
What about on the cheaper side? I had a couple cheaper ones. Remember when it used to be hard to find old Granddad 114?
Yeah, I was going to say 114 was one that was missing a lot.
That's been good for a couple of years, but yeah, that was they did go through like a 2 or 3 year period where they just didn't have any.
Mm-hmm. That one makes me laugh because my dad
just don't cut down everything to 100.
But then you get less whiskey. You can sell more water. My dad, who drinks whiskey more and more, he like always has to find a cheap bottle. Like he has to have a cheap, or that's what he always just buys. It's like, oh, I've did all this research and found out about early times and like all these things. And he finished his old Granddad 114. He's like, oh, that was really good for the price. I'm like, yeah, it's been talked about for a while. And when I was at Gold Eagle yesterday, Jake, I just took a quick picture of him. I'm like, hey, do you need this? He's like, no, your ma found one at Costco the other day. So I'm all set. Good news for you, though, Jake. Same price as Costco.
Yeah,
so a little feedback for you there.
Great. That probably means we need to raise our price. Just kidding.
Probably. That's jack that bad
there
boy
probably
up.
was a price increase at some point, and we just haven't gotten it in since the price increase. So
yeah. That's
yeah. I mean, we're I'm not gonna say we're gonna ever try and compete with Costco because they run on ridiculous margins and they're
they're subsidized by membership fees. So
membership, and they sell a whole lot of non-liquor.
Yeah.
And their own brands of stuff where they probably have better margins. But yeah.
I've heard the Kirkland stuff is really good though. I haven't tried any of it. But
I've heard.
That's supposedly what, Barton? Did I hear once?
I think that's what
they have like I think they have a Kentucky one that's Barton. They've got like their regular Tennessee bourbon. But yeah, I've heard like their scotches are decent, vodka's decent, whatever. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, clear spirits don't count.
Yeah. We're not pushing people to go to Costco.
Who was at the Middle West tasting last night, you said like, I'm not one to ever drink vodka, and I think it was Scott that was like, "Wow, I'm surprised to hear Jake say that." And I was like, "Really?
Really?
Like that's not that surprising."
I would feel like that would be definitely not surprising. Like
Yeah.
anyone who likes drinking whiskey neat, tequila neat, whatever, I'm sure you're not going to go take shots of vodka. Vodka is meant to be flavorless. Like you're not going to go sip on vodka if you like the flavor of liquor. Vodka is meant for people who don't like the flavor of liquor. It just needs something to drink that they can not taste.
I don't know. I see Gold Eagle Jake walking around a bar with an Appletini. Personally, I can see that pretty easily.
Espresso martini, maybe, but when we were in Austin, Texas, we had bourbon espresso martinis, and I will never have another espresso martini with vodka.
Yeah.
Because that is really good.
Yeah, Gary gave me that recommendation last night too.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty tasty.
Really tasty.
Being honest.
Is it just substituting out the bourbon, or is there other flavor mashups in that as well?
You just substitute out the bourbon, gives it like a little more body and a little more flavor, and
it seems like an absolute no-brainer.
Yeah, for somebody who doesn't like bourbon, they're probably not going to like it as much. But if you like the taste of bourbon already, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's like putting bourbon in your coffee in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's just Irish coffee. Or as I call it at my house, coffee. Saturday, Sunday morning coffee, sometimes a Wednesday. Thursdays and Fridays, most usually.
How's that new job going?
Job's going great. I work from home a lot, so what's the harm of throwing a little bourbon in your coffee in the morning? Nice little wake up.
All right,
man.
what's next on your list?
I just gave a bunch. Well, you only had Elijah Craig because that's all you fucking pay attention.
Yeah.
What about things? Well, one of them I remember, Smoke Wagon. Like some of the different Smoke Wagons. A couple years ago, they used to be in back rooms and used to be on allocated lists. To get Smoke Wagon, which I don't know the last. I think the last time I bought one was when I was at another liquor store. And like they're like, oh, I bought a couple things at a sorry, Jake, different liquor store. And they're like, oh, do you want something out of the back? I'm like, I don't know, what do you got? And I think it was Heaven Hill Bib and a Smoke Wagon, uncut, unfiltered. And I don't even think I think I gave that bottle away in something. Like I don't even think I drank that.
You don't, but uncut, unfiltered is not on the shelf, is it?
Oh yeah, it's been on the shelf for years.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're probably rewinding like 2 to 3 years now at this point to when Smoke Wagon was unfindable, which is fair. That's fine. But yeah, Smoke Wagon. I mean, that was rare character 2 or 3 years ago. It was just the new thing. It had a beautiful bottle. The bourbon was really good. And then it just hit a point where he was just making more. He was making bigger batch sizes. He was making more batches, and it got everywhere. And people, I think when you're that small of a business, see, like Heaven Hill can get away with it, Jim Beam can get away with it, but when you're that small of a company and you're just taking in barrels, blending them, and then sending out the bottles, you're not sitting on a rick house of barrels. He doesn't sit on any barrels. It's really, really difficult to stay consistent and get better with your blending and your final product. So I do think the consensus there where the blends weren't as good as they were when they were a lot smaller. And then he just, there was plenty of inventory going around everywhere. And I don't want to say it became another MGP brand, but it kind of became another MGP brand.
Yeah. Penelope was kind of the same way, in my opinion, at least.
Penelope was the same way, but
rapid turnaround. I'd say maybe a little bit of like lacking quality.
Penelope was the same way, but they did things that grabbed people and sucked them in, like the Rio, the Havana.
Yeah, I mean, they started doing some
the light whiskey,
different
like
stuff.
Imagine if Smoke Wagon came out. Yeah, imagine if Smoke Wagon came out with a 17-year light whiskey or a Smoke Wagon toasted finish.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, why are you not coming out with these things? Grab the market back. Get people looking at your brand again.
But you can't really finish stuff in Las Vegas, right? I mean, you could, but it's risky.
Yeah, I mean you can, but you're gonna just finish really really quick, and you need to get that product bottled as fast as you can, and put it out there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean he doesn't age anything because within a year or two the barrels just dry up. It's so dry and hot there. But yeah, if I were him, I would be coming out with something, some kind of finish that's hot. He hasn't done anything finished. Come up with something new. Get creative. And then I
Yeah.
also think Penelope got bailed out by MGP buying him out
Oh
because
yeah.
that just took them to a new level. They got access to more barrels, and I think a lot of people were already huge fans of Penelope, but when that happened, people really started turning their heads, and they got a wider reach of audience. So,
Which is funny because all Penelope was reselling MGP anyway.
oh
So
yeah, hmm
they just cut
that's
the
all it
middleman
was.
out.
Yeah,
It's a
but
smart business
then
move for MGP.
yeah,
Oh
I mean
yeah,
it
for
was. I
sure.
mean very smart. Like MGP has been trying very hard to make Remus a success, make Rossville a success, and they're great products, but they just never caught on.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
They're not good at marketing. They're good at making whiskey and aging whiskey. They're not good at marketing and
Yeah.
selling it.
Um, Probably going back a little too far, maybe as well, but in the same vein, probably same timeline is Smoke Wagon, but maybe more of it coming. Castle and Key bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably more the 2 to 3 year range where it started being more available. But I really remember when
I think that
batches
was
used to hit
more
the
just
shelf.
their batching was just too small, I think.
They didn't have it. That's why, because they didn't have the amount to batch big.
Yeah.
No, I
Right.
think I think people realized that the bourbon just wasn't that good.
I mean, that's part of it, but
I mean, I hate to say it because I don't like talking
Yeah.
bad about anyone, but we've said it on the podcast before.
Neither do I. I
The
never like
bourbon,
talking bad.
the bourbon, it's just too young right now. Like their 7-year cash strength weeded that we have on the shelf right now, I think is their best bourbon by far. And we've said it before. I think we all agreed. It just needs a couple more years, and then it can be something really special. But they came out with 3.5, 4 year bourbon. People were so excited buying it up, and then people I think quickly realized like, okay, like there's better stuff that I can buy right now than this 3.5, 4 year bourbon.
But
yeah.
I mean, that's going to be part of the problem, though. I think with them, with the bourbon side, is like because when it gets better, now you're combating releasing the whiskey probably a little too early, and getting a bad
Mm-hmm.
rep for it, and their price point is quite a bit higher than something like Green River. And I would much rather have a Green River for a cheaper price than Castle and Key for $20
So
more.
I hope and I think that maybe they realize that because their weeded bourbon I think was like $55 on the shelf or 50 to 55 somewhere in that range. Then they came out with the 7 year cash strength weeded bourbon and that is $59.99.
Okay.
So I think maybe they realized yes they're a little high, and they invested all this money into this distillery. They're still investing a lot of money. So bottom line, we need to sell, and we can't just be sitting on cases.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they also haven't had bourbon available for probably the last 6 8 months. We haven't been able to order any bourbon from them. Um, so that kind of tells me like okay
Probably sitting on.
they're realizing that all right we're gonna wait, we're gonna let this stuff get a little bit older and our future releases are gonna just get better.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the hard thing too, because I mean we just talked about it, and that's one of the really tough things with whiskeys. Is like now, obviously, Heaven Hill's a different case, but they kept stuff coming out at a limited trickle but they saved up enough that they said, all right, now we're going to make things available, and they put it all out, and they're available now. but they're also a massive distillery. I mean but like when you look at a case like Castle and Key, what if people really like their first few batches? And then it's just get
some
out
people did.
Well, they're idiots.
I mean, there's people like, still that really like.
It was so bourbon. Limited, but it's like, what if people really like those batches? Well, that was a one-time batch. You're never going to get that again. We can't get any more out. And it's like, well, we should have just done a big, massive release right off the bat. But then if it sucks, you're stuck on it. It's a catch-22 at that point.
I think they jumped the gun. I think they were too worried about just putting the bourbon out instead of letting it do its thing. They should have leaned into their rye, which is absolutely killer.
Yeah, the rye is great,
which are unreal too. And instead, why do you think they didn't put the bourbon out?
Why do you think they didn't lean into the rye?
I mean, they did a little bit.
Doesn't sell.
The rye was readily available.
They did for a little bit.
Their gin should have, I think, gotten a little bit more attention.
I thought their gin got pretty well received.
Yeah, I think for Kentucky distilleries, their gin is probably the most known and the first thing a lot of people think of because, their gins are really, really good. And another one, their vodka, which I'm not a vodka sipper, but their vodka is probably 3 or 4 vodkas that stick in my head as memorable, and their vodka sells pretty well. So they got their clear spirits down, and I remember first going to Castle and Key before they had bourbon, before they had rye, or they were just starting to release some rye, and them telling us we're not going to release a bourbon until it hits 6 years old. And then fast forward a couple of years, they released a 3.5-year-old bourbon. So that tells me they just kind of jumped the gun a little bit. Of course, they said, "Oh, well, we tasted it and we thought it was ready." But yeah, it could have used a little bit more time.
Yeah, but they were. I think their gin is their rye mash bill, right?
Yes.
Their vodka is also
their rye mash bill.
Rye, Dan.
Mash bill. Yeah, they're using it in a flavorless liquor. Good job. I found a way to make rye palatable. Well, make it flavorless, and people will love their rye.
I mean, it's smart. You're gonna pump out a bunch of rye. You might as well divert some of it to.
It's actually weird because you yield so much less alcohol on rye, and it takes way more grain, and you yield less. But must have came out the flavor they want because corn yields so much.
I mean, their rye whiskey is awesome, so might as well distill as much as you can.
So it can sit.
All right, what's next?
What do you have, Jake? I've rattled off a few in a row here.
So most of mine have been talked about, except for Weller would be one that's just sitting on the shelf.
Really?
Special reserve?
Yeah. You took a picture of it yesterday, Dan.
Did I?
Millennium.
Oh, Millennium, yeah.
It was a joke.
I mean, there was one at another store for a little cheaper than Gold Eagle, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's crazy because we like barely marked that up at all. We just wanted it out, and it's still there.
When I saw the price on there, which I know they got a crap ton of that, so I'm sure they got a decent price on it, but still to be putting that out.
No, I'm sure they got the same price. I'm sure they were just like, screw it, we're not going to sit on this any longer. Let's just get rid of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We still
a heavy discount is still $6,000, which is dumb for a bottle of whiskey, I think.
Yeah.
I think as crazy as a lot of people went, I think a lot of people, especially anymore, are like, nah, fuck that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even the people that have the money to buy it are like, fuck that. The people who buy Pappy secondary without flinching are like, no, I'm not going to buy that.
I mean, it's not even a good gimmick.
I mean, to be fair,
the box lights up.
Yeah, the box lights up.
It's a 20-year
like
Weller.
But it's like 1% 20-year Weller, isn't it? It's like something stupid like that.
Yeah, but there's a $2 LED light in the box, Jake.
You open the door and it lights up.
That is cardboard box.
To be fair,
Jake, imagine if you had that behind you, how many listeners we would get.
Yeah, listeners.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
We would go right to the top of the charts.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go
If
from
I
like
open it up at the beginning of every show.
Come on, let me hear that cha-ching.
The funny thing is, the people that have the money for that are like, I'm not spending $7,000 for a Weller Millennium. Oh, you have a double gold, or double Eagle Rare for $25,000 though.
Mm-hmm.
Let me look. Ooh, there's a blown eagle made of glass inside that bottle. I will give you $25,000.
At least that bottle's really cool, though. I'll give that bottle. It's pretty.
It's a cool bottle. I mean, they're both cool, but nothing should be
worth
that
$25K.
price. No whiskey should be that price.
Yeah, like cost them like maybe $100 over the course of its lifetime.
But in all seriousness, going back to things that are on the shelf that weren't, this probably isn't the case at most places, but we have. We're getting low, but we have 1792 full proof and bottled and bond or single barrel on the shelf. We got one of the distributors at the end of last year said they were sitting on like 100 cases of various barrel picks that were not claimed, and we took all of it. Those are things that we normally get just a case or two a year. I'm sure that's going to change and get a lot better going forward. But we've had single barrel and full proof 1792 on the shelf for about 4 or 5 months now. And I know I just checked the inventory down to 30 bottles and 10 bottles on that. So if you're looking for those, probably your last chance for a little while.
Yeah, 12 years still not out there very much.
12 years still usually just see like 6 bottles a year.
Yeah.
I mean, full proof is a pretty good one.
I think the whole 1792
really
line.
too. I really like Sweet Wheat.
I don't like Sweet Wheat. I think regular Maker's Mark is better. I think Sweet Wheat
regular Maker's Mark? That's a bold statement.
Blind it. Blind it.
All right, so line it up for us next time we're up there.
I think, bring me a bottle of Sweet Wheat. I think if Sweet Wheat just killed the marketing game. It's the name Sweet Wheat, beautiful bottle, but I just think it's very mediocre. I don't know. I would take regular Maker's Mark over it. I would.
I've never tried it. Say weeding them out.
But talking about 1792, exciting news. We have a 1792 bottled and bond barrel pick on the way.
Oh, nice.
That is really, really good. Like, this sample completely wowed me.
I wish that they would, maybe they do. Because I don't think I've ever seen a bib bottle pick of 1792. But it would be nice if, they had the Gold Eagle in the same gold as they put on the bottle. Because just to make it blend into that bottle. Because that'd be a beautiful piece of art.
Yeah, I mean, they just do the little, Sazerac sticker single barrel select, but we're gonna do a cool sticker. We're up in our sticker game. We've got a few barrel picks dropping soon. Actually, I'll tip it on here on Tuesday or Wednesday next week. One of the 2 dates, we're gonna drop a Larceny barrel proof pick.
Nice.
So we're gonna drop Friday an Old Elk 9-year weeded bourbon, but that'll, by the time this episode airs, that'll already be dropped
and probably gone.
Hopefully, I don't know.
Your old elks usually go pretty quick.
The old elks usually do go quick,
yeah.
But it's been 2 years since we've released one, so it'll be interesting to see what people's thoughts are now.
And you know why it goes quick? It's because of all the old elk above Jake's head, and if that Weller Millennium was right up there beside it.
Does a $500 coupon apply to the Weller?
Yeah, it does actually.
That's a $500 cart.
Mm-hmm.
That is well over a $500 cart.
You can apply it.
Put it in there, Jake. We're waiting for the ka-ching to go through.
You'll get it for the same discount then. And honestly, we won't make any money on it.
I'll say you'll probably get it for what it costs Jake.
and that's
That's
fine. Well,
15% markup. A lot of people looked at it and touched the case for a while. That's all that matters.
nobody touched it. We didn't let anyone touch it
No,
without
touch the
gloves.
case. The
Yeah.
case.
They
The
drooled. They
cases.
looked.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, Sazerac Rye is another one that was kind of MIA for a little bit and came back, which is good to see. There's, in my opinion, there's no reason that ever should have been off shelves or hard to
Well,
find. But
I think that's an example of what's going to happen with all the other Buffalo Trace products.
yeah,
It has been about 2 years since Sazerac Rye's pretty much been on the shelf every day. And before then, yes, like people would freak out. We would get like a bottle or two at a time, sometimes a case if we're lucky, and it would sell out immediately, just like Taylor, just like Weller, just like Blanton's. And I think that as soon as Sazerac Rye got on the shelf, it was amazing how people just didn't care for it anymore. And
yeah,
I think the same thing is going to happen with all the other Buffalo Trace products.
yeah. Well, even like regular Buffalo Trace is pretty widely findable now.
I don't know. It still sells out within 2 days. We
Really?
get 5 cases. It's gone in 2 days.
I usually see it at grocery stores sitting in areas that you wouldn't go shopping for whiskey at.
Yeah, I've seen it on shelves
Yeah, I
at
mean, they
other
do wide
stores.
distribution, and Illinois gets a lot of standard Buffalo Trace compared to the other products that they make. So I know a lot of it does go to grocery stores, but yeah, we get 5 cases a month, and then it's gone within 2 days, and we put a limit one on it.
Which is also just
Crazy.
I'm not going to. Now, for a $30 bottle
I
of
mean,
whiskey,
no, it gets good, but
it's hard to beat.
why
good.
are
It's
people
fine.
hoarding?
It's good, but you don't
regular
need
I
to
don't think
hoard
they're
a
hoarding it.
90 proof bourbon.
I don't think
we
people are hoarding it. I think it's just people drink it pretty quick. With it being at 90 proof, it's an easy drinker, and it's a
they
good
throw it over
cocktail mix.
ice and they crush it down.
Yeah.
I mean, we did do a blind with the Lake County Whiskey Club, and we had Green River beat it.
Yeah.
I think that's a great alternative. That's what I always recommend when people ask for Buffalo Trace.
Yeah.
They're very similar in flavor.
Yep.
Very,
Very, very similar. Their weeded is also very similar to Weller's.
No, I don't like
Not
Green
as
River's
soft.
It's
but
not as soft, yeah. That's where people love Weller. It's just so soft that there's no flavor, but it's so soft, smooth.
Throwback. It's perfect. It's a perfect Netflix night movie. Or that was Roberto's thing. Perfect Netflix and drink a bunch of whiskey with your Weller Special Reserve. Pour some out
Very
for Roberto.
special.
I'm kidding. He's not dead.
He's not dead.
What about stuff like Blue Run and Nuru?
Nulu?
Or Nulu, yeah. What about
Well, Nulu's like dead, right? Like no one gives a shit anymore.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're nice. We're not gonna be mean to any brands, but I think both of those brands were.
I didn't mean that in a
I know,
derogatory way.
I'm
I just meant
giving you
that
crap.
In
But
reality, it's just not sought after anymore.
well, yeah. So I think that's just an example of a new brand on the market. It's the new hot thing, and then
realize how overpriced it is?
they're pushing 6-7 year MGP and they're charging $100 a bottle. So that can really quickly fall off. If it was if it was really tasty, I don't think it would have mattered. It would have still sold. But it's fine for a $50-$60 bottle, but for $100, there's a lot of other MGP brands that you can find.
Yeah. Well, and they were kind of like finish chasing for a while,
Yeah.
where they just kept trying to do the next big finish, and like that I think kind of turns people off after a while, where it's like, all right, how many things are you gonna finish this shit in?
Yeah. So yeah, both of those brands were examples where as soon as they came into the market, I think our first 3-4 shipments sold out very quickly, and then all of a sudden nobody wanted it anymore. Just kind of sat on the shelf.
Yeah, Blue Run's just too overpriced. It's just way too expensive.
Overpriced.
See, yeah, and I just looked up real quick to see. because I mean, we talked about it over a year, over 2 years ago, probably about the new distillery they're building, but there's been no new updates on that for that $50-some million distillery.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Construction on that's probably going to take a while.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they start wondering if it's even worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're building a $51 million production facility, you better have a lot of sales to back it up, and they don't. So, I mean, they could be. I haven't heard. I'm just looking for it now. I haven't seen.
I think they had really, really deep pockets.
They do have really deep.
Well, they
pockets,
do, yeah.
People with really deep pockets usually don't waste millions and millions of dollars just to create something really cool. Well, fair. Yeah, there's nothing really since March of 2023 on it, on the Google machine. Maybe ChatGPT can say otherwise, but
I haven't seen anything about that distillery since we talked about it on the show, at least a year ago, if not.
Yeah, because it was March 2023 is when they released, or when they talked about it. I know shortly after is when we spoke about it. God dang, time goes quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really nothing on it. But yeah, I mean, they might realize they really missed the mark on this, and they might have slowed down their little deciding to.
Yeah, I mean, if they were in like the $50-$60 range, they probably would have done pretty well. But
I even think that's a little high, but not high, but I think that's overstating things because there's so much in that $50 to $60 range.
No, I think they would have done well in that range.
Okay, well, you're wrong, but that's okay. No, I'm not seeing anything within the last year and a half of update on it. So I don't know if it started or if they're just.
If you're not seeing anything, I guarantee you they probably scrapped it.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be in the Bardstown area, right?
Georgetown.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought it was Bardstown.
Georgetown. It's right that whole area. Yeah, that's really the ones. Oh, I had one more on here. This was probably within more of the last year. Old Forester 1924.
Where do you see that on the shelf?
I thought I saw it on Gold Eagle's website.
Nope.
Did I not?
1920 maybe.
1924 is the
10-year.
That's not available.
No,
Right.
I know we don't
That's
have
a
that.
limited release, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm sure that's something that is going to come out more, but they've released it twice, and it's been in December. But I mean, the story on
Old Forester should be sitting on plenty of 10-year whiskey. So
no, because here's the story on that. Old Forester heat cycles their rickhouse, so pretty much everything Old Forester is only 4 to 6 years. Like their whole whiskey row series, all the barrel picks, it's all 4 to 6 years. Yeah, but they heat cycle the rickhouse, so it's aging a lot quicker than a typical 4 to 6 year whiskey that's open to the elements. But Old Forester, Brown-Forman purchased the Early Times label, right, 2-3 years ago, and the Old Forester 1924 is the only Old Forester product that doesn't have the same mash bill as all the others. So,
interesting. Okay,
this has pretty much been confirmed, and what a lot of people online speculate is that King of Kentucky, we know, is the Early Times mash bill. So Old Forester 1924 is all the barrels that didn't make it into being a King of Kentucky. Because King of Kentucky is all single barrels. So what are you going to do when you taste a single barrel that you can't bottle in that label? You're just going to proof it down to 100, and then you can sell it as a 10-year. And here's Old Forester 1924.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Bullet 10-year.
I don't think... is it?
I don't think that was hard to find.
No, it went away for a little bit. I don't think we have any right now. It could be something that's out there. Actually, let me check if we can order it.
You have the 12-year rye, right?
We have the 12-year rye, which, yeah. Just because it's a
But
rye
that's fairly new release.
doesn't get the love.
Within the last year, I think.
It is, yeah. Let's see. Bullet. Another one that I...
Go ahead.
Go. No, I was just going to say another one that I have on my list, and I think it's the last one on my list that we didn't really talk about, is Joseph Magnus.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
The cigar batch last time we got it, or cigar blend, it sat on the shelf for like 2 weeks, which normally it just sells out immediately. So that would be one. And
well, it's got stiff competition now.
It does,
and a lot cheaper competition.
The price point on it is hard to continually justify, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that one is one bottle that for me has always stood up in a blind tasting against other cigar batches. Some batches are better than others. They do a lot, but I do think that bottle is pretty good. And yeah, I think the price point is at that price point where people are realizing I don't need to spend this to get a really good whiskey. So, but even the other Magnuses, like the Murray Hill Club, is sitting on the shelf. That never used to sit on the shelf. And the regular Joseph Magnus, we would get it in pretty frequently, but it wouldn't always be on the shelf. And now those are available anytime.
Is the Murray Hill, is that still 99 or did they bump that to 149? 129.
Yeah, it's like 120.
The first one I bought for $99, and I thought it wasn't bad. I thought it was a good whiskey. I thought $99 was on the high end of that, but
I liked Murray Hill, I think, a little bit better than cigar.
Batch. Murray is a little different, but it's basically unfinished cigar batch.
Yeah.
It's like a blend of like 10-year bourbon and like 18-year light whiskey. And I think like a 12-year bourbon or something. But the Murray Hill Club is good. It's their only unfinished product. And we can order Bullet 10. So I think I'm going to go ahead and order a case of that because I don't think we have it.
You are welcome for me being smart.
Thank you, Dan.
It'd be cool if we could hear you, Dan.
I think most of our listeners would highly disagree.
That's better. And yeah, you're probably right. Which I will say again, somebody came up to me at the master class last night and was like, "Oh, you're the other whiskey guy," and I was like, "Yeah, I am." Then I went into Dan. I was like, "Oh, did anybody come up to you and say you're the whiskey guy?" Oh, no.
No, I did. Right off the bat. Mm-hmm.
No one.
We did it. We did actually have a fan. We did have a fan that said, "What's up?" and that was his first tasting at Gold Eagle, and he came because he heard the podcast and listened to us talking about the master classes. So that was cool.
Yeah, which is fun.
Yeah.
Look at us just helping out Jake.
You don't have to be here, Dan.
The good news is I'm not going to be here. So yeah, that was fun. That was a nice little thought process. I mean, for no prep time at all to kind of put a list together. But yeah, this list will continue to grow. And I don't think it'll be too long till some special releases or yearly releases start sitting longer and longer as well. I mean, there's some yearly releases that are like, I'm not saying it'll sit forever, but I know it's sad a little bit this time because you guys had some for a while, the Woodford Masters collection.
Yeah, we still have some.
It's just the same.
Seems to be sitting longer and longer.
It's the same thing every year, but it's not one of those like collector's series for yearly. Like it's not what we always talk about, the Midwinter's Night Dram, where you got to have it because you've had them all and you have.
Yeah, no.
It's not. I mean, even something as cheap and simple as the Woodford Derby bottle, where it's a different Derby bottle every year. I mean, people still will buy that just for the bottle.
like the
They found
Woodford
a cool
batch
collector
proofs.
niche with that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but the Woodford batch proofs are always like super good. It's just that I think they're way too overpriced. They should just release a
No, I
regular
agree.
everyday cast strength, make it affordable, like in the same price area as the double oak,
Right,
and call it a day.
$59.99. Why not? You're selling your
There's
94
absolutely
proof
no
or 90
reason
proof
that they
for
can't do that.
$35.
Just don't put it in a fancy bottle. I'm fine.
Yeah,
Use your normal bottle.
I mean, because those batch proofs are absolute killers.
And the problem is
They're
people that
depriving
love Woodford
America of premium,
and
fantastic bourbon.
yeah, but their number one clientele is people who have the money but don't like cash strength. They love
Yeah.
Woodford because it's flavorful and it's smooth, and they can just go grab a bottle whenever they want.
You can drink it neat. You feel fancy when you put it in a cocktail.
Which I absolutely hate plain regular Woodford. It's so bad.
I don't think it's bad at all.
I think it's fine.
I think it's fine.
I would never
double oak
choose to
is
order
killer.
it or pour it, but if that's the only thing they have besides Jack and Jim, I'm ordering Woodford.
I would take Jack over Woodford.
No, fuck that.
Not the regular 7, not the old number 7.
I'd rather puke in my mouth and eat it than drink Jack Old Number 7.
Yeah.
I guess you always puke in your mouth. Or puke out of your mouth. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the list is going to continue to grow. Those are some things over the last few years that, we see as patrons of stores and owners of stores and drinkers of whiskey. But basically everything we talked about tonight is available at one store, which is Gold Eagle.
Gold Eagle,
And
thank
Jake,
you, Dan.
where can people find these things that they couldn't find on the shelf 2 years ago? See, I'm
Gold
back
Eagle,
Killer
goldeaglewine.com. Yeah, you're good, Dan. You're good. Keep it up. Goldeaglewine.com. Shop our inventory. Everything we talked about tonight, for the most part, is available. Order it for pickup. Order it for shipping. And yeah, follow us on Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine. Follow us on Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits.
You better follow because you haven't said anything, but it's probably not going to be too far away. I haven't seen a tater release in a while, so one of those is probably coming up here.
There was one. There was one 2 weeks ago.
I thought there. I thought there was one.
Yeah, there was one 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Maybe it was 3, but it was 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks ago at this point.
Well, you should follow if you want tater bottles because Jake will put tater releases on.
But I mean, also a couple days ago we had, one of the days last week we had 3 cases of Weller Special Reserve, and we put them in the picture just weekday available online. So I think that, and to kind of tie back in this episode, it's just a really good time to be a whiskey drinker. You don't need to wait in lines anymore. You don't need to, hunt people down and make trades. Like, most of this stuff is findable, and there's no reason to go out of your way to find something, because fast forward a couple of years, there's going to be a lot to choose from if there isn't already right now.
Yep. And to bring it back back to the potato things. Speaking of potatoes, Jake, where can people find out about us?
You're calling me a potato?
Yeah.
You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Watch us on Spotify and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bourbon Matters. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. Click the notification bell on whatever platform, and all that fun stuff.
Sounds good. We will have a special episode next week, I believe. So tune in.
Knock on wood. Yep.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.